I'm Katie Davis.
I'm Ken Kurdziel.
We're the leaders of the James Moore Collegiate Athletics team. One thing we love about working with colleges is that we get to be on campus and we get to explore college towns, trying local food, learning about their traditions, and of course, sampling local beers. Aside from being on campus, we feel like we do our best work at a local brewery just around the corner from our office, where we brainstorm over a beer together and bat around new ideas that could help the business of college athletics.
So one of my prouder accomplishments is the fact that when Katie and I started working together years ago and would travel to collegiate athletic clients across the country, sampling beer, she might have started with a Budweiser while I was drinking, as a typical craft beer snob, drinking a great American craft beer. She has gradually converted to my ways on there and now goes toe to toe with me drinking good beer. So cheers to you, Katie.
Cheers. What are you having today?
I am having Resin, which is a double IPA from Six Point Brewery in Brooklyn, New York. Resin is a kind of an old school double IPA, not in the new style of hazy New England style juicy. It's resiny, just like its name, and nice and bitter, and I love it. It's a great beer. What are you drinking?
Yeah. So I got mine from a local brewery, the one that I talked about that's around from our office, called Blackadder, who is still serving us beer and growlers, even though we have to be social distancing. I'm drinking Queenie, which is one of their red ales, and I'm going to go ahead and log this on Untap. I drink it regularly and give it a 4.5, and feeling like it's a 4.5 again today. What are you going to give yours?
So I'm going to give Resin a 4.25, which is, I'm looking back, I've logged it before, the 4.25 is a little bit higher. That might be a little bit coronavirus influenced. Originally, Katie and I planned to actually film from Blackadder, and about a month ago, middle of March, which seems like years ago now, we were in Nashville together at the SEC conferences with the CFOs. And it was kind of the day that college sports came to a big pause. I'm not going to call it death because it'll come back, but came to a big pause, which was really sad and unfortunate and still feels surreal. A lot's happened in the last month, and one of the things we wanted to talk about today was just really 5 key things that we've seen and heard as we've talked to clients and friends in the industry over this last month in this current environment. So Katie, kick off with kind of what's the number one thing that you're noticing in the current environment?
Yeah, so I would say number one, and probably the first challenge all the schools faced, was how to handle internal communications during crisis mode. And, we know that everyone's talking all the time about this, and we know that athletic directors are connected with each other through the NCAA, through their conferences, through other avenues, and recognizing that there's a lot of information being shared. How does that trickle through campus? How do presidents stay informed when decisions are being made? And I feel like the CFO's role is crucial in this time because you have a pulse on the financial information. You can project out different financial scenarios. And I think having that transparency and being able to provide that to your AD and your president as they're making the tough decisions, it just provides them more context to give them a little more comfort in the decisions that they're making.
Right. One thing that I know I've commented to you before that I thought was just interesting is the fact that in public companies, CEOs and CFOs, they often are tied at the hip, just working lockstep or, running the business, kind of talking day by day as they look at things. We don't really see that, unfortunately, is quite as true in collegiate athletics. Maybe this current crisis changes that, because certainly everything right now is, there's so much that's obviously financial related in the current crisis, which kind of brings us to number two, the number two theme that we're seeing, and that's in the area of revenues.
Yeah, so just there's an overall threat to revenue streams, and not all schools, but most of the schools in the NCAA have football programs and rely on their football programs as the primary revenue generator. So media revenues, ticket sales, sponsorships all of those things are tied to football season. And there are different scenarios. Nobody knows what football season is going to look like, and we're not here to try to speculate what it's going to look like. But I think that schools are running, anywhere from 2 to 3 different models on what that's going to look like and what the revenue mix is, depending on whether there is a season, if there is a season, if it's shorter, if there's fans in attendance or not, and looking at how that's going to impact their program as a whole.
Right, and different schools have different threats, really, too. Thinking that, okay, Power 5 schools, the big threats are going to be in those areas of ticket revenues, contributions, those areas. But then Group of 5 schools and other smaller schools, I mean, could even see threats to student athletic fees, because obviously if student athletic fees are typically based upon the fact that that there are going to be athletic seasons and often free tickets for students and all of that. So you're going to see challenges from if fans aren't allowed into games and so forth. It's probably likely that student bodies are going to be asking for refunds of the student athletic fees, or just not have them charged in the future for this next year. So really, it's the type of thing that hits both the Power 5 schools as well as the smaller schools, just in different areas. That kind of brings us to number 3, which is an interesting observation you made the other day to me, that looking back to where we were when college basketball was paused, one of the interesting things is there have been no changes to head coaches in the college basketball arena for the most part.
Right, and I think I was talking with someone that works in the athletic searching industry and for personnel, and he mentioned that to me, and I was had paused and said, well, yeah, that is surprising. That rarely happens, but it makes sense in this case because there are huge buyouts attached to coaching contracts if they're terminated before the contract period ends, and it's also very costly to look for a new coach, and logistically almost impossible when you need to meet with them face to face and you want to invite them to come on campus and see what they'll be working with. So it makes complete sense to me, but it is a surprising consequence of the times that we're in right now.
Yeah, which is, probably never to be seen again, quite frankly. A really unique situation, and it kind of ties into the idea that with all the threats to revenue streams, naturally CFOs needing to look to the cost side and really cost containment. And what are you seeing in that area? What is the discussion centering around on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing that everybody from the largest of the large of Power 5 down to Division 2 and everyone in between really is looking for ways to cut costs. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, the Group of 5 and FCS and even no men's football size schools, they have cut the low-hanging fruit type costs long ago. And now they're looking for even more creative ways to cut costs that aren't their people-related costs. So I think that some of the larger schools that have never really had to deal with this before could learn a lot from these smaller schools, just seeing what strategies they used, what worked, what didn't work when they went through it initially. And, I think that really looking for as many opportunities as possible to cut costs, whether it's travel related, apparel related. We've heard a lot of other conversations around how to cut those costs.
Right. Now, and as they cut costs, I think it's going to be important that that they go number 5 on our list. Really is just kind of this idea of a short-term versus long-term mentality, and the risks of making decisions too early. So, talk about that a little bit. What do you see as some risks that we as we move forward here?
Yeah, so I mean, like anything, I mean, we were having before coronavirus, we were having this conversation about name, image, likeness, and not developing policies and things like that before all is said and done. And I think the same is true here, where a lot of schools have had to already start cutting, making cuts to people costs, whether it's furloughs or percentage cuts. Some schools have had to drop sports, and those kind of decisions are really tough, and it's really hard to add a new sport back that you've cut once you've cut it. So, don't make decisions too prematurely, and don't make them without thinking about the long-term impacts and any unintended consequences. And, be prepared model it out and see what it looks like so you can make the best decisions when the time is right.
Right. So, and I definitely hope that's what schools do, because as we sit here in April, my hope is that things somehow do improve and that there is a way for there still to be fall sports and all of that. I mean, I know some days I wake up and read the papers and it just seems like there's no way that can happen. And then the next day there's more optimistic stories. So I hope that the decisions aren't made too soon and that we kind of wait and see what May and June bring and kind of, hope for the best for there being some sort of fall sports season. So,
yeah. Well,
that's all I got.
that hits our top 5. We hope this was informative for you, and we'll be coming to you every Thursday from our homes. And look for any comments, questions. Please email us. You can go to our website and submit a contact information if you'd like for us to reach out to you. We would just love to hear what it is that you need to know right now, and we will share that with you every Thursday at 4:30 Eastern. In the meantime, you can also check out more information on our website or follow us on social media. You can even look us up on Untapped and see how we are spending our time at home after hours. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again next week. Cheers.
Cheers.